My friend Sebastian and I, we're going to show you how to make some fig and cheddar scones, and we're excited to get started. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So you're gonna grate half of that cheddar, right, using the cheese grater on the surface here. I'm gonna take these dried figs and chop them up real finely. You want to use unbleached flour when you're baking as often as possible, because we don't want that bleached flavor in there. We want flour to taste like flour. So in here, I want you to put some sugar. Just dump it. Baking powder to make things rise. All right, some salt. Salt's so important. Don't ever skimp on the salt. All right, make sure the baking powder is really well incorporated, because you don't want to bite into your scone and have a bit of baking powder in there. So now we're going to put in our figs, or whatever else you want to add to your scones. Now add the cheddar in. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, and I like to coat the cheddar with the flour, so you can actually just go in with your hands now and just kind of coat all the little pieces. So now we're gonna take cold butter. We're gonna take our butter and we're gonna coat it with the flour. And then I like to flake the butter. So you're gonna take your butter and flake it, and you want the pieces of butter to be about the size of your thumbnail. All right, I think we're good. You ready? Mm-hmm. Go. Nice, thank you. All right, so now we're gonna take our milk, our buttermilk here, and our cream. We're gonna pour it all at once. And the key here is not to mix this too much. So if you want your scones to taste like hockey pucks, you can stir this a lot. But we want these to be light and fluffy. So what we wanna do is just stir this just until the flour barely escapes. So we're gonna dump this, and we're gonna pat it like this. And we're gonna give it what's called the business letter fold. And if I feel like there's a few more dry bits, I'll do it one more time. That's it. And now we're gonna put this in the freezer for a little bit, because our hands got really warm in here. Our scones will be much fluffier and yummier if we pat it down a little bit and put it in the freezer for a few minutes.
I'm gonna be showing you how to make ricotta. You add a mixture of 3 cups milk and 1 cup cream to the pot, and you let this mixture simmer. Once it's simmering, you add the acid, which I'm using vinegar, and then turn off the heat. Try not to stir it too much after you add the acid, or else the kernels might go away. And then you just leave this here to settle for maybe about 30 minutes.
So we are going to make some roasted strawberries. So first, Zavi is gonna help us wash the strawberries. You don't want a faucet to go directly over some gentle berries, because then it'll hurt the berries. So instead, you wanna give them a bath in cold water. So all you wanna do to roast the strawberries is cut off the little green stem and then put them just standing upright like that. So you wanna bake these for 10 to 15 minutes at 350 to 375, just until you smell them ready. Our dough's been resting in the freezer at least 10 minutes. You can go as long as a half hour. And now we need to make sure that it's nice and flat. We don't need to do too much else to it, but we don't want it to be so thick. So we're gonna do this a little bit. Can you flatten that out a little bit more for me?
Yeah.
That'd be great, thanks. All right, so whenever you're using a rolling pin, you wanna go from the center down and the center up, instead of going like this, because otherwise the butter will melt. Okay, so now we want to get a biscuit cutter and we want to cut these out. If you don't have a biscuit cutter, make a circle here and just cut a bunch of triangles. Okay, so now instead of balling this back up and overworking it, what we want to do is to gently scooch them back and just give them the help of a little palm just to get this flat again. All right, so we can keep that aside and keep it in the freezer, because next week I might want some extra stuff. So you can bake it today, but it's kind of nice sometimes to have a little extra dough in the freezer. A nice little surprise. So we're gonna brush the tops of these with milk, and we're doing this so that they don't dry out in the oven and so that the sugar can stick. All right, we're gonna bake these. So 375 or higher is the rule for anything flaky. So we're gonna get this in a hot oven and we're gonna bake them until they're golden and delicious. So everything's out of the oven. Oh my gosh, look at that, gorgeous. So I like to open them up, and I first will smash some strawberries in there. Gonna get them really juicy. And then you can serve it with a little bit of ricotta right on top of the strawberries. Thanks for baking with us, and know that if these guys can do it, so can you.